Did you know that the American Psychological Association has done studies on individuals who eat traditional diets and compared them with individuals who eat Western diets, and have found that those who eat traditional diets, such as the Mediterranean or Japanese diet, have depression rates 25 to 35% lower than individuals who eat traditional Western diets. The main difference between the two diets would be that traditional diets contain much more whole and fresh ingredients. Western diets contain a lot more oil, grease, heavier foods. We all know that what we eat affects our health, but typically when we think about this, we think of it in relation to our physical health, our weight, or our physical fitness levels. But we often forget or don't think about the fact that it greatly affects our mental health and our brain function, and even our risk of Alzheimer's or dementia later on in life. So today, I'm going to talk about how nutrition affects our brain function. And we'll break that up into 3 parts to make it as simple as possible. We'll start by looking at nutritional psychology as a field, as a whole, and then we'll break that down into looking at the science behind nutritional psychology and how that relates to the ENS. And then we'll look at what you can do with that and how you can apply it to your everyday life. So why does this matter? We all eat, we all love to eat, we should love to eat. So why not eat foods that we love but are also making us feel our best and function our best? I've dealt with a lot of mental health struggles on my own recently, and when I finally decided to get help for it, my therapist started directing me towards looking at my diet really closely, and so I started doing research on my own of how diet affects my mental health and my brain function every day, and it really changed my life in the way that I approach eating and has really improved my well-being. So first, nutritional psychology as a field focuses on the relationship between our diet and our mental health. So the diet-mental health relationship, also called the DMHR, abbreviated. This can be seen in the physical sense through the integrative health movement, which is the major focus of nutritional psychology, is to promote this movement, which focuses on the individual as a whole being. So combining our physical, our mental, spiritual, social, and emotional aspects of who we are all into one, and seeing that they all correlate with one another. As you can see in this diagram, all the circles overlap, meaning that they all play off of each other, they all affect one another. One changes, the other changes in ways we don't even realize oftentimes. Within this psychological field, we see the enteric nervous system, which relates to the science behind how our nutrition, or how what we eat, affects our brain function. The enteric nervous system is also called the ENS. It's unique as a system because it's the only one that functions fully autonomously or fully on its own, separate from the brain. So it's also often called the brain in the gut because of this. The way that it connects our gut to our brain is through something called the vagus nerve, which connects from the base of our skull directly to our gut. Neurotransmitters are sent directly through this nerve from our brain to our gut. So it makes sense that what we put into our gut would matter because it's directly affecting what's being sent to our brain. The Women's Alzheimer's movement has found that 90% of all our serotonin receptors are found in the gut, and 50% of the body's dopamine is produced in the gut. Both of these, serotonin and dopamine, are neurotransmitters, and which means that they are what stimulate our brain, and they produce either happiness, excitement through dopamine, or a more relaxed, peaceful experience through serotonin. Both positive, both neurotransmitters that we want to promote for better mental health. And through proper eating, this greater stimulates the activation of these neurotransmitters up to your brain. In a more present, more current relation, it affects our mood and emotion because these neurotransmitters, as I said, promote joy or bliss or relaxation. So the more stimulation we're creating of these neurotransmitters, the more that's going to be experienced because it's being sent to the brain more frequently. Also, in relation to stress and depression, our sugar intake causes inflammation the more sugar we put into our body. And so the less sugar, less inflammation, and through inflammation causes the inhibition of these neurons, so less are able to be stimulated, less are functioning. So we aren't sending as much proper and good neurons up to our brain as we would be if we weren't causing this inflammation in our gut. The American Dietetic Association has done many studies that has shown that when we're stressed, we either overeat or undereat, both of which cause a lack of stimulation to the brain. So how does this apply to you? You can focus on eating these 5 main food groups, and the key word to remember is whole. You want whole ingredients in your diets. Omega-3 fatty acids, which are good fats, are found in salmon, white fish, things like that. Those are super important, good proteins. Leafy greens like broccoli, kale, spinach, very important. Fruits, you always want a colorful diet. 4th is whole grains, nuts, and seeds. These are good carbs, really good for energy levels. And then last is fermented food. This is really good for your gut flora, which we won't get too into, but just know that gut flora is really important for good gut health. How do you do this? 1 is just through being mindful. Think about what you're eating, when you're eating, and why you're eating. You can also, in a more practical way, create a food journal, write down what you eat so you can keep track. You can meal plan, meaning make a list of everything you're going to make throughout the week. At the beginning of the week, go to the grocery store and just buy those things. Create it for the week. This way you eat less out. Then you can monitor your intake of nutrients. Make sure you're getting all those good things that I talked about earlier. And lastly is just finding recipes. Having a lot on hand is really helpful so that you're not as tempted to eat those quick, easy foods that are maybe not as good for you and won't create as much good brain function. You can use any of these sites as resources. They're great. They give good recipes, good tips on how to better improve your eating habits, good snacks you can eat, things to keep on hand. They're all very useful. So today we talked about mental health and how that's affected by our nutrition. We broke it down into the field of nutritional psychology and looked at the science behind that and how you can apply that to your own life, practical ways to do that. So I encourage you all, just try it. Take one of these tips, one of these tricks, and start today. Whether it's just being mindful of what you're eating and putting into your body, or if it's creating an actual meal plan and trying to stick to that. Just try something and see where it takes you. See how much better you feel and how much more you're able to get done and how much happier you are as a whole.